Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. Today we have two stories, both written by the same OP, both involving his entitled neighbor escapades. So let's just dive right into the audacity, shall we? Neighbor gets expensive smart home appliances installed on Wi-Fi with no password. Calls the police when I let them know that's bad. Hi all, I remembered this story from a year or two ago while I was browsing for a spotlight that I could turn on and off from my phone. Not related to the story, but my dog wants to go to war with some foxes who keep accidentally turning on the motion activated spotlight, which Fuzzface considers dire provocation. I was farting around with a crappy laptop's Wi-Fi card and saw that I had an access point I could connect to that wasn't there before. Signal was so-so, and I had my own internet, so I didn't bother trying to use it. So I sorta just forgot about it. About a week later, I was unplugging some stuff and accidentally unplugged my wireless router. And while it was unplugged, my phone found the next accessible Wi-Fi access point, which was the one I'd found previously and not really bothered with. Not my circus, not my monkeys, you know? Then my phone pops up saying I need to install all of these smart home apps to make sure the appliances work, which didn't make sense. I'm enough of an IT guy to know that unless there's a burning need for it, home automation isn't really the best idea. Absolutely no telling who can access that information. These people had their garage doors, heating and air conditioning, lights, interior and exterior, televisions, and refrigerator hooked up to a Wi-Fi with no password. In the industry, we call that dumb as a bag of hammers. Once I plugged the router back in to appease the suddenly irate family members wondering where the internet went, I hooked up my dog and took him for a walk. Before I left the house, I installed the smart home app and turned on one exterior spotlight and then looked for the house it was attached to. Presumably, if I was able to use their Wi-Fi, then they were in line of sight. Once I saw the light that was on, I turned it off to make sure. The house was on the next street over, directly behind my house. There's a huge hill in the way that the builders left because Mother Nature didn't flatten my part of the country as a courtesy, so lots can be next to each other without being accessible. That meant going the long way around. My dog is an adorable 35-pound cockapoo who has much better people skills than I do. So when I have to go talk to people I don't know, he comes along because he's about as threatening as a wet noodle. Don't tell him I said that. So we make our way over to the neighbor's house, and I knock on their door. A nice older lady answers it. Old enough to have moved out kids, but not old enough to be considered a Q-tip in my humble opinion. She forgets to ask what I want and immediately goes gooey all over my dog. Her husband hears the adorable appreciation sounds coming from his front door and investigates. He too is floored by my dog's awesomeness. There's about a minute of him getting all the attention, and I thought building a report before I remember why I'm here. I ask how they like their new smart home stuff, and they immediately start getting weirded out. Husband says, "We like it just fine. How do you know we got that stuff? Please don't take this the wrong way, but you don't have a password on your wireless. My phone connected to it by accident and told me about all the stuff you had installed." Wife cocks her head to one side, and husband's brow starts developing a thunderous quality. I start talking faster. "I'm just here to let you know that you really should put a password on your Wi-Fi, or anyone can use it to do stuff, like open your garage doors." Husband's brow is now in full fury mode, and he opens his mouth to, presumably, shout at me. But before he can, the wife says, "Oh, that's what the installer guy was talking about. He kept saying I needed to encrypt the thingy or something like that. We've never bothered with the password because it's a pain in the ass to set up and remember." Husband has now gone from thunderous fury to bewilderment, and he looks at his wife and says, "Encrypt the what now?" I don't feel like getting voluntold to set up these people's network and appliances for them, so I say, "Okay, gotta go, bye." I power walk away from their house, and once clear, we mosey back towards my house. About 2 hours later, someone starts knocking at the front door to my house. I live in an in-law apartment in the basement of my parents' house, so that's not my door. My mother answers the door and then stomps down to the door of my part of the house, throws it open, and tells me the police are here. I hustle up the stairs and there's Officer Dave. Not his real name, but the only officer my town, at that point, had who knew enough about computers to actually have a conversation with me without getting a must smash nerd face. I say, "Hi Dave, what's..." He cuts me off before I can even finish. "You promised me you were done with this shit after that whole Main Street thing. You fucking promised, and now I look like an asshole." Whoever had set up the timing on the stoplights for the main road through my town, after some pretty serious construction, did an absolutely awful job, and traffic was horrific. Me and a locksmith friend decided to fix the problem. After reporting the problem to town hall, got nowhere. We didn't break anything. He just picked the lock and I hacked the light, and then we locked up when we were done. We got caught on the last night. Only reason I didn't go to jail was because Dave backed me up and made everyone wait a day to see if traffic was better, which it was. I then promised him no more shenanigans. "What? I haven't done anything," says I. "Then why the hell am I getting calls about you opening and closing people's garage doors and turning their lights on and off?" To be fair, that did sound like the sort of thing I'd do. Not to break into someone's house, just to mess with them. I'm mischievous, not evil. And then the light dawns. I point and ask, "Did you get called by the people living at that house?" Because I went over there a little while ago to tell them they needed to put a password on their Wi-Fi. Only thing I did was turn on a spotlight to see which house it was. Nothing more than that. Swear to God, they don't have a password? There's a thud as Dave facepalms. I let out a yup in sympathy. He sighs and says stay out of trouble, and I wave bye. Turns out the husband called the police and gave a vague description of me and the dog and said that I lived nearby. One of the other cops gave Dave a hard time about him cutting me slack before he drove out to talk to me. The couple got a call back to tell them that the issue was resolved and please secure your Wi-Fi. 2 days later, there's a password on their Wi-Fi and we all lived happily ever after. Except for getting the stank eye from that couple whenever I walk by. "You won't stop smoking on your porch at night? I guess we'll burn our house down." Hi all, just found out why there were a bunch of flashing lights and loud sirens on the street behind mine last night. And I am gobsmacked. The family that used to live in the house behind mine, who ever so helpfully called the police on me after I gave them a heads up about their Wi-Fi, has moved out. A new family has moved in. Our houses are separated by a couple hundred feet and a brush line. I found this out because they came to talk to me last week about my smoking a joint on my porch before I go to bed and how the smell is terrible and it's bothering them and I just need to not do that. Note, I smoke precisely a 1/2 gram joint on my screened-in porch before bed, perhaps 3 to 4 times a week. The likelihood that any of the smoke from that is going anywhere near their house is slim to none. I told the new back neighbors that I'll turn on a ceiling fan to thin out the smell. But I'm not going to get eaten alive by bugs just because they don't want me to smoke on my own property. I guess this answer didn't satisfy them, because last night, one of them came up with a cunning plan to get back at me. They dug a hole in their lawn, built a fire with a bunch of green pine wood so it would be extra smoky, started the fire, and then put a box fan pointed at my porch next to the fire and went inside. 3 guesses what happened. If you guessed they set their own house on fire, you would be correct. One of their next door neighbors called 911 because some sinners from the fire set my back neighbor's house on fire. I have no idea how much the fire damaged the house, only that the people who live there got arrested and given an impressive set of fines for negligence and a bunch of other things. Did I mention my county is under a fire weather warning and all of those fines were multiplied? The juiciest part, and the reason I decided to post on here about it, was one of the cops was talking to the neighbors, who were going on and on about the awful pot smell and making the house uninhabitable. Cop sniffs a little bit and tells them that's not marijuana, that's a skunk. Oh man, OP. Sorry about your new neighbors. I have a feeling though that we may get a few more entitled people stories out of these neighbors, likely in the near future. So we will all laugh at your expense. Also, we have read quite a few of this OP stories in the past. The Scooby-Doo gang and the blind date might ring a bell for a few of you. So I know that this OP lives in a state where marijuana is completely legal. So really, OP can smoke a joint on his own property as he dang well pleases, just as people can smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol on their own property as they dang well please. Also, skunk smell is so strong and pungent. How did they possibly think that a smell that lingers for weeks is equivalent to a half-gram joint being smoked 200 meters away? Although, I live in a land where skunks are plentiful and recreational marijuana is also plentiful, so I can distinguish between the two smells very clearly. And to me, it's obvious which is skunk and which is pot, but who knows? Maybe these new neighbors aren't familiar with either, but it's still hilarious nonetheless. Anyway, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed these two entitled neighbor stories. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!